The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Yes, who's coming to your cordless? It's the giant head from Minneapolis. It's Tuesday night, March 26th. I had to think about it for a second. March 26th, 2024. It's 11 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States, 8 p.m. on the West Coast, 2 o'clock in the afternoon at the Sydney Opera House, and 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time here where I'm sitting in Northeast Minneapolis. I am Jim Peters, the giant head from Minnesota, and you're welcome. You're watching Jim Peters at Night. This is episode 101. We'd had our 100th show last night, and I want to thank you folks. It was long and successful. We had, I think, more callers than we ever had ever, and that's pretty cool. Matter of fact, we had to bump something, believe it or not. Now, also, I don't know I never got the name of the last guy I was talking to on the phone, and I found him really fascinating. So we went on for a while. I probably should have cut him off a little sooner, but still, I thought he was really interesting. He has some really good points. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want to apologize to him yet again. So this show with our distributors, we're authorized for up to 2 hours, and we pushed it last night to 10 seconds. So that's never, we've only done 2 shows. The second show we've ever done that was 2 hours, longer than 2 hours. That's with the 5-second or the 5-minute countdown at the beginning, which actually counts. So it's actually 2 hours and 5 minutes. So yeah. So at any rate, yeah, I want to thank everybody for calling in. Vladimir Putin called in. That's very cool. Tim Conaway. I'm just going off the top of my head here. Jeff Meyer, our sponsor, he called in. The CEO of Conk News. It was very nice. And we talked to Murray Sabrin. Fascinating discussion with him. Economist, nobody in America knows anything about money. The Congress is basically determined to default on the national debt. It's like that's basically the only way you can put it. So, at any rate, we got it going on. It was actually pretty cool. Had a very nice night. I really appreciate it. So yeah. So we're in the triple digits now. This is show 101. Let me tell you what's coming up tonight. I will read it off the list. Tonight, I don't actually have to read this. I know this. Tonight, our guest is Dr. Bruce Rapuano. Now, he is a neuroscientist by training and profession. He's also said he's been abducted by aliens. He wrote a book about this called Dominion Lost. He's going to be joining us live. So if you have questions for Dr. Rapuano, you can text them or call in. I tell you what, I'd appreciate if you didn't call in with a webcam because I don't want to fish out of the screen, but you can call in audio 563-999-3435 or send us a text message at 408-458-5088, bottom of the screen here. All that information is there. If you have a question you want me to ask him, please do so. This is going to be interesting because he's a scientist. So, there aren't a lot of people who are familiar with science who say they've been abducted. And he also, half of his book is about various theories on how these spacecraft fly. And also, he said he has been catered to by what, for lack of a better term, the definitive little gray aliens, which everyone who seems to be the vast majority of people who say they're abducted seem to run into. And he goes into various biological theories of what makes these things tick. He doesn't actually say this in his book, so I'm going to ask him about this. But there's a big theory. He alludes to this that they're essentially biological robots. That they're skin and bones, but they've been bred specifically to do a certain subject and or a certain task, and they basically have no souls. That they're basically animals, trained animals. So yeah, we'll talk to him about that. I'm looking forward to this a lot. This guy's really interested. Read his book quite a while ago. Um, so anyway, we're gonna talk to him. And tomorrow night, we're taking the night off. Sorry about that. Things we got to do. Thursday night, Jazz Shaw is here. He's a UFO and conservative politics guy for Salem Media. Specifically, he's the weekend editor at hotair.com. And we have a lot of people on here from Hot Air. I know that, but still, I don't care. It's, no, Jazz, I call Jazz my brother from another mother because he's got him and he is the closest gig on the internet that I have. And that is I talk about conservative politics and UFOs. And he knows more than I do. So I know you might find that shocking, but it's true. He does. So anyway, I love to talk to him. I'm sure he'll have some new scoop. And he's been writing some even I can't remember if Jeff mentioned this to me in his call last night or off the air about the fact that Jazz has put out the last 2-3 weeks has put up some incredible columns at Hot Air, and we're going to talk to him about that stuff. So that's on Thursday. We don't do Fridays here at all ever. Monday, April 1st, we got our month in review panel, and that's Tim Conaway, Don Zorro, and Larry Newman, and we basically just chew the fat for an hour and talk about the news of the month, and it's basically it's an excuse for us to fuck off. That's all it is. So these guys were my regular panel on the Conk News Weekend show when I was at work at Conk News and did those podcasts and radio shows there. I mean, so we're just basically keeping the band together. That's what we're doing. So that's on Monday, and now once again we're taking Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week off. So we're coming back. The next show will be we're doing Monday the 1st, and then we're coming back on Monday the 8th. So just want to let you know what we got going on there. Now, like I said, if you have questions for Dr. Rapuano, I tell you what, like I said, you can call in with your camera here. We're the first talk show in America. Talkers Magazine said this, not us. We're the first talk show in America that takes video phone calls. So you can call in with your webcam, and you do that by going, I get rid of this. I got too much stuff on the screen, man. I got too many monitors. You go right here to this URL, gemini.com/call. There's a big blue button at the top of the page. You push that, you get to a preview screen, you get to check your camera and mic and get the crap out of your teeth and comb your hair. And then when you push join at the bottom, you're in the queue. It's really super simple. Now, that said, I'm going to ask you not to do it while Dr. Rapuano's, while I'm talking to him. I don't want to mess the screen up with too many people. But if you want to do it before or after, that's fine. So now, if you've ever watched this show before, here we are, episode number 101. It's basically in 3 parts. First part's a monologue. I talk about usually the news of the day or how much I hate the media, or occasionally if there's some UFO news, I'll put it first. Then we have a guest. Guests can be all sorts of people. We talk to politicians. We talk to journalists. We talk to UFO abductees like Dr. Rapuano. We talk to a whole bunch of different types of people, and that's the way I like it. I like to keep it. I have a lot of interest, and also I have curiosity to the point where it's a sickness. So I need to know everything. So we have all sorts of guests on from all walks of life. People do all sorts of stuff. We have the Bigfoot hunters. Really, we just go to town on this. And also, I'll just tell you this: you ask me why I take so much time off. Well, I do this show entirely on my own. This is basically my retirement job. Doing the show is relatively simple, relatively easy. I mean, it's live. I queue up at 10 o'clock every night here in our little studio, 4 nights a week. That's fine. I love talking to you. The thing that takes the most time is booking the guests. And it's not even that it's that hard. It's just really time consuming because it's like a giant puzzle. I got a calendar. I got to fill the thing in. You got to figure out when people can come. You got to figure out if they want to come. There are all sorts of crap like this. That's what I do most of the days when I take some time off, is I'm usually booking guests. Now you could say, yeah, I can do that in the afternoon, but I'm 68 years old. I'm getting fucking lazy. That's my excuse. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. So there you go. You want to know? Okay, I'm a lazy son of a bitch. That's right. So and the third part of the show then, to go on, part 3, the C block, if you will, That's usually, non, uh, pertinent, non-daily news, and usually paranormal stuff, UFO stuff, science stuff, whatever. It's like the stuff that basically does like, I got stuff today, you won't hear this stuff anywhere. I got this stuff from last week. So we did a story, and I still can't get it out of my head. I got a friend of mine who wrote me back and said, "My life would have been much more complete if I didn't know this." And that is this a woman in Britain, in UK. So she's got 2 vaginas, and she's decided that she can have 2 boyfriends as long as each boyfriend sticks to 1 vagina. It's not cheating. That's what you learn here. I tell you what, you seriously, you keep on watching, you're gonna learn a whole bunch of stuff. I've been laughing about that for a week. I just like just amuses the hell out of me. So, any rate, now, but before we even do anything tonight, I told you we actually had to bump something last night, and I'm kind of embarrassed by this, but really, we had so many phone calls I couldn't get this in. We were going to play last night for our 100th show. We were going to play the new music video from the band Gun Hill Road. Now, why are we playing this? Because Michael Harrison, one of the members of that band, is a really good friend of ours, and he is the publisher and founder of Talkers Magazine, and he's been very good to us, and they've featured us in the magazine and all sorts of stuff. Very good, and we love him, and he's a great guy, just interesting as hell. I mean, you're talking about people. Some people have done things, and I'm going to get to that in the second too about the fact that Trump is basically the only person who's been president at least 100 years who's done anything outside of politics. But yeah, so people, he's done a lot. So one of the things he does is this band. Now, this band's been around, I'm not kidding, for 55 years. They were one of those 1960s psychedelic bands and, 68, 65, 68. I know that completely dates me, but I was alive then and I remember this stuff. So, they have continued, and they make music videos now and new songs, and they get played this is amazing, they get played primarily on talk radio as bumper music because their songs are basically issue-oriented. So, now this one's called "Damn Scammers Get Off My Phone." It's about, being scammed and phishing on your, cell phone on the internet. That's what the song's about. The music videos are striking. They did one excuse me. Michael Harrison came on the show for World Radio Day. I can't remember. Oh, it's February 13th. That's right. It was the day before Valentine's Day. So he came on and he was the go-to person from the United Nations. They do Radio Day. And yeah, he's working for the United Nations and he comes on this show. Don't ask me how the hell that happened. I have no idea. I said this last night too, and I want to thank all of you who've watched and called in and stuff. When it comes to guests, we're batting way beyond our pay grade. I mean, it's not even close. The quality of the guests we have on the show. I mean, we've had a lot of what people would call A-list guests come on this program, and we've only been doing this like 8 months. So now I did, audio radio shows and podcasts for years before this, but this is actually, and that's the other thing. What do you call this thing? Because people say, well, you do a podcast. No, this is not a podcast. It isn't. Podcasts are usually audio first and then the video feed is secondary. This is opposite. This is a television show. I mean, I don't know if you're watching right now. And I know, yeah, we're on Blog Talk Radio. You can listen audio only without the picture and we make that available. But it's like the opposite of most. Joe Rogan does a podcast and he has a video feed. Now a lot of people watch it, but the thing is, it's a podcast first. This is a television show first, even though it's only one camera. And that's another thing we're doing next week too. Another reason we're taking the time off is because we're outfitting the studio with a new camera and new lights. So because if you've been watching the show from the beginning and probably not, I spent 2 weeks tuning the lights in the studio, and we started on July 31st, and I spent another 6 weeks after that tuning the lights. We never really got it right. We finally did. And so you're wondering why you're going to redo it, Jim? Because now we're having to have lights cooked up to the computer. That's the reason. So we can change the temperature and the color and all that sort of shit on the computer screen. We don't have to fuck with the manual stuff in the lights themselves. So that's what we got going on here. I know. I love the equipment, man. And then the camera, we're the new camera we're installing, and this one isn't bad. This one has been pretty good. but the camera installing is even better. So I'm looking forward to, and that's going to take us a week. So we're doing the month in review on the 1st on Monday. Then we're taking a whole week off. We're coming back on the 8th, another Monday. So, at any rate, I'm going to play now. All right. So now, I got off track there? Oh, so Michael Harrison is a member of Gun Hill Road, and I was going to talk about their music videos. That's what I was talking about. They're not only do they look really cool, but they use some AI in their music videos. I think it was the one they did for World Radio Day. I can't remember for sure. They've done one video that's entirely done by AI, entirely AI generated. And it's stunning. Now, does it look real? No, but still, visually, it's stunning. It is. Now, this music video we're going to play here in just a moment, parts of it were also generated by AI. So, without any further ado, now, okay, and one more thing. The reason Michael's not on tonight is because he had surgery on Thursday. That's the reason. So, and I doubt he's watching this, but if you are, Godspeed, friend. I hope you're doing well. I hope things are working out. And with that, I'm going to play for you. This is the music video "Damn Scammers, Get Off My Phone" from Gun Hill Road.
Hey schmuck, get off my phone. Just shut up, leave me alone, and get lost. When you call me up at dinner, I start thinking like a sinner, been double-crossed. Who's that on the other end? You say you're my trusted friend? Are you kidding? If I'm a sucker for your fishing, I won't have a pot to piss in. That's your mission. It feeds my rage like I'm on roids. Don't wanna come off paranoid, but it's getting dangerous and continues to derange us by and by. Both their hands are in your pocket. Those headlines that seem to rocket just turn out to be clickbait. You think you got it straight, but man, it's just AI. Damn scammers, they'll try to pull a fast one. Damn scammers, don't believe me, you can ask one. Damn scammers, they cheat, they steal, they lie. It's enough to make you cry.
I wish they all would die.
Get off my phone! You still there? Launch a drone in their direction and deflate their big erection. F them up! Yeah, I'll find out where they live, and there's nothing to forgive. I'll blow them up. Their treachery's well-rooted. All our email is polluted. It's a crime. I can't tell the spam from news. Walk a cow field with no shoes. It's all slime. You pretend to be my bank, then proceed to yank my crank. Every day it's getting worse. This technology's a curse. Just say goodbye. Little Johnny's overseas. Grandma, I need cash now, please. Hurry up. No time to wait. You think you got it straight. Again, it's just AI. Damn scammers. They'll pull a fast one. Damn scammers. Don't believe me? You can ask one. Damn scammers. They cheat, they steal, they lie. It's enough to make you cry.
They all should die, die, die.
Damn scammers. So you're a Nigerian prince? Damn scammers. I'm not convinced. Damn scammers. They cheat, they steal, they lie. It's enough to make you cry. They all deserve to die. There, I said it. You idiots. it. You think that you're so smart? I'll tear your world apart. Full disclosure, I'll beat you at your game. Your life won't be the same. This ain't over. What do you mean, can I hear you? Scammers get scammed.
We strongly recommend not to access your financial information, such as banking, shopping on your device until your accounts get fixed. Press 1.
That's the band Gun Hill Road and the song Damn Scammers Get Off My Phone. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Like the song. I like the video is really striking. And I mean, apparently some of those images are AI generated, not all of them. But and also from what Michael's told me, it's not necessarily the ones you think are either. So okay, fine, that's cool. Anyway, Michael Harrison had surgery on Thursday, and Michael, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for this. And yeah, that was his contribution to our One Earth show, and a day late. So we have um Bruce Rapuano coming on in a few minutes. But before then, I just want to address something here. Now, we did a show about 2 weeks ago, which got quite a lot of viewership, and I think it's because of the title that was on Rumble, that was on our distributors, our platforms. And the title of the show was um, Trump can still F this up. I black for headlines, I blacked out the word fuck, which I can say here, and I just did. Because the thing is, all right, so for the first time ever, and I got together with a bunch of friends of mine for lunch last week, and they're all never Trumpers. They can't stand the guy. Uh, and I pointed out that even though, and they're acknowledging that he's ahead, and the thing is, you have to think about this. This is the first time in Trump's short political career that he's actually been ahead in the polls ever. He wasn't in 16, and I have gone on saying that I think there's evidence the 2020 election was cheated. There's certainly no definitive proof, but there was some legitimate evidence, and I'm not going to get into that right now. But it does bode well to say that Trump was never ahead in any poll in 2020 at any time. Didn't matter who was polling, what the poll was, did not matter. He trailed Biden the entire election. So okay, so maybe it wasn't cheated. I'm just bringing that up because that's what I do. But now it's the opposite. Now he's ahead in almost every poll. And my thing is, Trump, it can be his own worst enemy. And, his big problem is he talks smack. And even his supporters, of which I am one, I mean, will readily admit that. I mean, he can talk shit as well as anybody. Matter of fact, in some ways, that's kind of his not just his calling card, but it's kind of his saving grace too. So, but the thing is, now he's ahead. You can make an argument that in the past, all that stuff he said the 2016 election. Well, you stop and think about this. Now, okay, you're one of the richest men on the planet, but still, you've never been involved in politics at all. At all. You have no name for this. You have some name recognition with the public, but not as a politician. Well, how do you gain that? Well, you get on a stage during a debate and you insult the shit out of everybody. I mean, it's actually not a particularly novel or brilliant concept. I mean, that's how you do it. And that's what he did. And it worked. It worked. But now it's the opposite. Now he's the seasoned politician. He's going against a guy who beat him in 2020, who's been an abject failure. I mean, there's just no way you can get around it. I agree with Bill. Bill O'Reilly said this, but he agreed with me because I said it before he did. And that is Joe Biden is going to go down in history as the second worst president in American history. The first would be James Buchanan, who essentially whose what's the word I'm for? Negligence started the Civil War. I don't know if he actually started it actively, but he let it start, and he could have stopped it, and he didn't. And for that, he's the worst president. He will probably never be dethroned from that. But and also the guy was his administration was ridiculous. So, and the reason, okay, so why am I bringing all this up is because what was occurring to me is that um, we have never had a non-politician be president before. And if you think about this, this is like ever. It's never happened. So, it'll be interesting to see if Trump can keep his mouth shut, he might actually win this thing. But then that's a big if too, So you don't. I mean, my point is that he has a hard time doing that, and he could screw this up royally. But so far, so good, and all this stuff, the legal stuff they're throwing at him seems to be backfiring. So anyway, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. Um, we got 7 months to go before the election, and and I bet I'll talk about it tomorrow because this is a talk show. I don't know if you noticed that. Our guest, Dr. Bruce Rapuano, is here, and we're going to put him on. Here we go. Little bumper music for you. Hey, Bruce, are you there? Hello? Hello? Bruce, I cannot hear you. Let me try something here. All right. No, I think we've lost him, haven't we? Hello, Bruce. Can you hear me? We can neither see you nor hear you. Either one. Oh, man. Hello? Try this one more time. There we go. There's a blank screen. Bruce? I can't hear you, Bruce. I don't know if you're there. I can't see you either. I don't know what's going on here. Oh, well. All right. He cut out. Still can't see you. Still can't hear you. I should tap dance or something now. Those of you who are watching, thank you for bearing with us. Have a little technical difficulty here. Hey, Bruce, I'm sorry. I don't got anything. Can't see you, can't hear you. If worse comes to worse, Bruce, why don't you try calling us on the call-in line? That's 563-999-3435. Once again, 563-999-3435. Oh, man. All right. Okay, well, let's see if we can get our shit together here and get him on somehow or another. Oh, all right. Hello.
Jim, can you hear me?
Yeah, Bruce?
Sorry about the technical difficulty there.
No problem. I'm glad at least we got this, so that's good. That's good. How are you?
Good, Jim. How are you? By the way, great to be on with you finally.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your 100th show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Yesterday.
that a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But the real congratulations is that you're with us. So I read your book.
Yeah.
All right. And it was just it was just absolutely fascinating. I have to say, I found it absolutely riveting. I did. So, first of all, Bruce, why don't you explain to our viewers or listeners at this point? Can you just go through your professional background a little bit?
Oh, yes. So I have a bachelor's degree in the major in neurobiology, minor in psychology, a PhD in neuropharmacology, and a JD law degree. And I've been working for a few decades now as a cell biologist. I just want to interrupt you, see if you've got any video for me at the moment yet.
I'm sorry?
Do you have any video for me yet? Can you?
No, I don't. No, I don't have any.
Okay, I'll continue with my background, and so I've been working as a cell biologist for a few decades at some fairly well-known medical research institutions, namely Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and most recently Hospital for Special Surgery.
Yeah.
And I have worked as an independent medical researcher for quite a few years. I
Okay.
can see you, but unfortunately you can't see
No,
me.
we got you now. We're good. So should I hang up the phone?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
I'm
then
gonna hang.
I'll hang up.
I hung the phone up. Okay.
All right, I'll hang up the phone and let's
We're
continue.
good. We're good. Oh man, you're very attractive. I'm old. Are you good?
Hear anything? You should not have hung up.
I shouldn't have hung up.
Jim?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay.
I can hear
Call
you
again,
just.
please.
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me? I shouldn't have. Oh man. All right. Okay. Yeah.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please
Call
hold
back.
and you will be able to listen to the show.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
All right, let's
Okay.
try it this way, Jim.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. I can see you, you can see me,
Yes.
and I think we can hear each other.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great.
Yeah, get a little bit of feedback. Nothing major. Nothing major at all. All right. So
All
you
right.
were, you went through your professional credentials. Now, do you want to start? The first chapter of your book is basically about this experience you had. Were you about 14? 1965?
10 years old.
10 years
I
old.
was 10.
Okay. All right. So you want to tell the viewers what happened?
Well, this was a very unusual close encounter of close encounter, I would say, of the fourth kind, as it turned out. And the only, I think, similar sighting that really had the same degree of multiple witnesses in terms of numbers of witnesses was the Travis Walton case, which everybody remembers back from 1975,
Yes.
when
Right.
a logger in Arizona was abducted, and
And he had
his
6 witnesses to that, right?
right, he had 7 or 8 witnesses, and they returned to find, after they had seen the UFO, he had been struck by a he called it a bolt of energy. They drove away, drove back, and when they did so, he was gone. Well,
Yeah.
similarly, there were 7 or 8 witnesses to my close encounter, and what we had seen was we were playing a game of kickball in our front yard. It was a beautiful day in late June, cloudless day, and I was playing defense, and for some reason, I just turned my head to the right, and I happened to see in the cloudless sky the largest light I'd ever seen in my life, and it was a very unusual configuration. It actually looked, Jim, like the biblical Star of Bethlehem,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
not just a point source of light like a star or a planet, but this was 2.5 times the size of the full moon. And so what I did was, no one else in our group had seen it except me. And so I walked past the oak tree that was kind of obstructing my view of the UFO. And when I did so, I could see it was silent, motionless. It looked like it was right above us. Again, huge. It looked like a giant star overhead. And at this point, my other classmates that were playing the game of kickball drew close to me, surrounded me, because now they had noticed it as well, and now at this point, the whole scene transitions to a very strange effect, and this has been replicated in the UFO literature, or at least reported in the UFO literature, numerous times. They call it the Oz effect, Wizard of Oz effect, where everything seems to slow down, where you hear the ambient noises from the neighborhood, the birds and the insects beforehand, everything in the surrounding environment.
Okay. I'm gonna now you all right, there you okay, there we go.
So I think we have both audio and video at the same time now,
Yeah.
right?
I think we do.
Now, and what I was going to say is that at this point where we were experiencing what has been now reported as the Oz effect, you know, I frankly was trying to figure out what was going on. Why did everything's in the environment seem to become drastically changed to this strange scene that was now unfolding in front of us. So I turned my head to the left just to see if I can take my eyes off the object. Maybe I wouldn't be so distracted by it. I would be able to see if I can hear anything. Again, I heard none of the crickets and grasshoppers that the noise from which had been deafening while we were playing the game, but now was gone. And I saw
you were talking about this in your book about the fact that part of the Oz effect is that, and people report this regularly, that
Yes.
there's absolutely no noise. Whenever any noise of nature seems to absolutely cease, right?
Well, it's been reported many times, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I had no explanation for it, and that's why I was trying to, as a 10-year-old, you know, I was very curious. I was trying to investigate what was going on, and what I was getting to is that when I did so, still couldn't hear anything. What startled me more than the fact that we had lost any of the sound, you know, the noises in the surrounding environment, was that the people around me seemed to be not moving, as if they were frozen, as if there were something, as if time had stopped around me, and nothing could be heard. And there was no movement, and even my classmates seemed to be somehow part of a world that had stopped. And what I did was I tried to then follow the object, because at that point that I realized that everything had stopped around me, as if by a flip of a switch, the light, this gigantic light that was so bright I could barely look at it, turned off. In its place, I saw what I call the classic fireball UFO, this red or reddish orange object that looked like a fireball is the best way to describe it, about the size of a dime held at arm's length. And now what was different about this was that it started to move. The object before, the brightly lit star, it was motionless, but this object was moving. I followed it as it moved south, directly south or southwest. No one was moving around me, but I had to follow it until it disappeared over the horizon. And then I came back, and I guess, you know, I don't want to give too much away, but the point of this encounter, this sighting, this experience, was that I was told for part of the encounter, for part of the sighting, I disappeared. I could not be seen.
That's the part I find really interesting. Yeah, at least one of your friends said you
I'm going to leave it
disappeared.
there.
Yeah, yeah. So now these things have been basically, you've had several incidents over the course of your life now. And then in your book, and I hope I'm not going to hit anything, your book's basically in two parts. Half of it is your experiences, and the other half is what you perceive as your scientific justification and or explanation, or how all this stuff works.
Exactly. Right.
Right. Right. So first of all, I do have to ask you, and I think you did mention this in the book about, did you ever actually ask the aliens anything specifically?
You know, you don't speak to them verbally, but
Right.
numerous witnesses, I mean, dozens, hundreds, who knows how many, have been interviewed by abduction investigators and have told them that they're able to either telepathically receive messages, or
Right.
it's mutual. They can also communicate and send messages telepathically. I had another experience where I, I I had another sighting of a UFO. This was 3 years, actually 4 years earlier, 4 years before the we'd seen the Star of Bethlehem UFO. I was by myself. I was in my room, just about to go to sleep, maybe 7:30 at night, again in the summertime, maybe late June or late July. And so I saw this strange looking UFO, looked like a structured craft that was um, highly reflective. And I didn't know if it was an airplane or something unknown. But I fell asleep after that. And one example of this type of communication that is often reported between abductees and aliens is when I woke up, I was on the proverbial table in an unknown, I was no longer in my bedroom. I was in what looked like a hospital setting.
Yeah.
I sat up and then I saw, must have been dozens of these 3.5 foot to 4 foot tall, I call them humanoid beings. They were all white in color with all disproportionately large hairless heads. They were walking back and forth in either direction. And for some strange reason, they looked so uniform, like they were clones, all clones of a single original clone. I just wondered, as a strange question come up in the mind of a 6-year-old, are they all boys or all girls, or they're both boys and girls? Because they looked like children. They were no taller than I was.
Yeah.
And immediately I got an answer back. Yes, both boys and girls are what you're viewing now, or the beings you're viewing now. And there have been other examples that I reported in the book where I did feel I was being telepathically communicated with and directed either to go to sleep when I was about to be abducted, or to not um, tell my parents or my family what was happening to me during the encounter or after the abduction. And so that's something that that is consistent from abductee to abductee.
Well, you alluded in your book, I don't know if you actually came out and said this per se, but you at least alluded to the fact, and I've often thought this too, the telepathic communication, especially among what you're describing, the classic gray aliens, basically,
Yes,
that a lot of people experience this, but I've always wondered if it might be technologically implemented. In other words, that it's not maybe a natural ability they have, that somehow, and you talked in the book about the two different scenarios. Some people have implants that would be easy, but even if you didn't have an implant, there might be a way to actually broadcast and receive brain waves so that you could communicate that way, and where it would be a technological process and not necessarily natural. Do I got that right?
you have that perfectly right. And that's something we just don't know. One theory I have is that for at least some of the abductees, that this telepathic communication is assisted by some type of a technology in the form of an implant in the brain or inside the nasal cavity or the ear. One of the functions of this technology, of this implant, may be to communicate. It may have other functions as well. Now, it may be able to do very sophisticated things in terms of reading the mind, downloading mental activity, or even manipulating human behavior and human thought. But they may be able to, in using a less sophisticated technology, as you just described, remotely interfere with the brain waves by transmitting certain types of energy from a remote source to control people, maybe to turn people off that they don't want to abduct, so that they're not privy to what's going on. or to, um, to do other things to paralyze them so they don't interfere with the abduction and so forth. But this
Oh,
is something we just don't know how much human beings can be controlled remotely.
and we have to bring this up because I think this is an extremely important point. You're one of the very few people who've had this experiences where you've remembered all of. You've never had to be hypnotically regressed to remember any of this, correct?
That's a good point.
And
And
that's, I mean, I know there's some people who have some memories like that, but you're one of the very few people I've ever heard where basically all of your memories are. I don't know what's the word you use for that. It's like not regressed, non-regressive. I don't know. You tell me. You're the doctor.
consciously recalled.
Yes, right.
Everything I recorded was consciously recalled.
Thank you. Now, I'm gonna bounce all over the place here. So excuse me. So now, okay, you also talked about the fact that maybe the telepathic communication was either implemented or enhanced by technology. You also, and you didn't actually say this per se, but in the last chapter of your book, you talk about the little gray aliens, and a lot of people have speculated that they're essentially biological robots. And you go through a long medical descriptions of basically how that could possibly be true. Do I got that right too?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly right.
yeah. Oh, so have you come to any conclusions after thinking about this for how long that about what like definitively is going on here? And of course I'm looking for your opinion here. And I mean I know you can't prove anything, but you saw this firsthand. What do you think's actually happening?
Well, I mean, is your question? Are you asking me about the nature of the Greys, or what their whole program is all about?
Both.
Well, I mean, everything I saw was consistent with what so many people have seen, and even I don't know if you've read the book or heard of the book called The Day After Roswell, which is
Of
written
course I
by
have.
right,
Right.
and Philip Lieutenant Colonel Philip Corso saw the alien cadaver up close, read all of the autopsy reports when the Roswell aliens that had died after the crash were when their bodies were transported to Walter Reed Hospital and then autopsied by the pathologist there. And he went into detail about how similar the gray aliens were anatomically to human beings, but how many differences there were. The fact that the pathologist didn't find any evidence of a digestive system, of reproductive system, and the fact that they discovered that the skin was actually permeable, and they theorized that that's how the aliens could obtain nutrition, since they had no digestive system. They possibly could have obtained nutrition through the skin, and so it really seems to me that there's a lot of evidence that the gray aliens were genetically engineered to function as I will call them assistants or slaves, or maybe even cybernetic servants to some higher order alien species
Yeah.
that has some purpose for the experiments that the gray aliens that are working for them are doing on human beings that are abducted.
Well, Bruce, I never actually, now that you mention it, I don't really know if I read this in your book. Did you see any aliens other than the little gray aliens?
No, no,
Huh.
no, I
Interesting.
didn't, and so this, it's I've been able to solve any part of this, uh, you know, um, you know, or come up with any answers as to what is going on with this abduction program, and it's only one part of the puzzle, because I know there must be other species that are working with the gray aliens, and as you know, there are other a number of species that may have nothing to do with the gray aliens.
So people who didn't have these abduction experiences, often many of them say that they're in a room with the little gray aliens, and then there's taller gray aliens.
Yes.
Have but you did not see any of those.
No, but I'll never forget. I read a lot about other abductees who saw them, but I'll never forget when I woke up in what I thought was a hospital, and just for a short period of time was viewing these short humanoids. I felt what I thought was a large hand on my chest and abdomen pushing me down. The sense I had is if that was actually a hand of a creature, it was much larger. It was a creature that was much larger, although I never saw a
Right.
creature,
Right.
much larger than the aliens I was looking at.
Yeah, because they were basically like table height, right? Kind of more or less.
No, no, clearly no taller than I was, and in fact, the one I saw when I was 13 or 14 that you described a few minutes ago also was the same height, same
Yeah.
anatomical description,
Are you
and
talking about the one you saw in your bedroom?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Now that's really interesting too, because you said you could kind of see through it. So you think you caught it while it was literally just leaving or something like that? Or
That's that's what I thought. As that's what I actually said in the book. I caught you, and I felt because I couldn't see its hands, I could see the rest of its body, that it was doing something to my head. But maybe if I caught it, it was able somehow to dematerialize and go back to the UFO or into another dimension for all I know.
yeah, do you have any thoughts or ideas or where these things are from?
I can't say that I do. There have been so many um, UFO abduction investigators and
Yeah.
UFO investigators that have speculated about this. I would refer the interested people to a lot of different uh, investigators that have explored that question. But I really have no clue because I don't think we really know um, who the master species is or the nature of the master species that I believe is in control of the Greys.
Right. Right. So now you spend a lot of your time in your book, or at least one long chapter, talking about quantum physics and how maybe these things fly. So, and does this have you thought about dimensionality all at all or interdimensionality? Because I mean that's really fascinating because if you think about a species that lives in a dimension that's above ours, I mean here's the I will use it as a comparison or analogy. Um, there was an episode of Star Trek where they encountered a two-dimensional world, which to us would be completely flat. We would be above it, and we couldn't. We would have basically we would have to kind of like go down into it, but we can't as a species go up in. We can't experience the fifth or sixth dimension. We just can't. So if these beings and people throw these terms around all the time, but I mean no one thinks about it scientifically. If you're in a higher dimension and you're visiting a lower dimension, well, that's possible, but we can't do the opposite. We might have a machine, might have equipment that can measure a higher dimension, but we'll never experience it. I mean, we literally can't do it.
And yet, if that's true, how are human beings like myself and other abductees able to interact with these alien beings that exist in another dimension? Do we have to enter into that dimension? Do they have to enter into our dimension? Or is there something that they're doing that's part of the abduction program that's changing the perception of the
Yeah.
brain to be able to observe and interact and communicate with beings in a different dimension?
Well,
There may be some people that have that ability, but the aliens are trying to enhance that perhaps technologically.
and that's exactly what I was going to say. I think they might provide a technological framework to allow us to do that, but it's on their terms and it's temporary. It's like because
They're in control. Yeah.
they're in control, right?
Right.
And so I talk about this with my viewers all the time. I have a lot of UFO people on the show, and that is, we've only had the iPhone for less than 20 years. Can you imagine what technology is going to be like 10,000 years from now? And get back to what Arthur C. Clarke said about all misunderstood technology is magic. I mean, if you've been around 10,000 years far longer than we have, some of this stuff might be all simple.
what's even scarier to me is the fact when you start to develop from AI to, to artificial general intelligence, where the AI is at least as smart as we are, to artificial super intelligence, um, you know, where the AI system is making its own rules of machine learning. Perhaps we're going to make technological leaps, AI assisted technological leaps that we can't even imagine in the next 25 to 50 years, because we can't even anticipate how much smarter the AI systems we're building are going to be than we are
Right.
10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. If that's so, imagine the future that AI is going to design for us.
Well, let me run
It's
a
difficult to
scenario
do.
by you. I'm assuming you're familiar with the Turing test from the 1960s, right? Alan Turing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
so the Turing
Yes.
test, of course, then it was all done by type. There was no voice, recognition. But the Turing test said that if you can talk to a computer and you can't tell if it's a computer or a human, that computer is sentient. Basically, that's what he said. Now we know that's not true anymore. And all the people at Google and OpenAI say there's no, we're not even close to sentience. But these things are so good at talking. How would we even tell when we cross the line? You know?
We if there, I don't know how we could even tell that point at which they do become self-aware
Right.
and
That's
sentient. And at that
okay.
point, they may be so far beyond us that we're really behind the curve
Do you
in terms of understanding.
do you think there's a lot of people do that there's a danger to humanity here?
Yes, and I think in a major important way, the Europeans are ahead of us in trying to work on legislation now to try to regulate the development of AI. And I think we need to um, seriously consider the European model now in terms of the rules that we need to start thinking about immediately for regulating the AI that Elon Musk and the people at Google uh, are developing that may be, for all I know, superior to AI developed by any other country in the world. So
Yeah.
we should start here before. I mean, the U.S. is the place where we really should start developing these rules and regulations for the development of AI.
Yeah. So getting back to your book, so if you let me know if I put words in your mouth incorrectly here, but
Mhm.
you seem pretty convinced, and a lot of other people do too, that the reason these little gray aliens or whoever's running them are coming here is to basically harvest DNA for some sort of hybridization program. So you talked in your book, there's two different scenarios. One of them is benevolent and one of them is malevolent. Do you want to go through that?
Well, I'm an optimist by nature, and I would like to think that there is a galactic federation, perhaps that some of the countries have been invited to join, and the aliens, whoever they are, only have our best interests at heart. On the other hand, you know, we have to be prepared for the eventuality that they're only concerned with their own self-interest.
Yeah.
So, and they have abducted hundreds, thousands, maybe more people from this country alone without and have done experiments on them without their consent, uh, obtain genetic material from hundreds of thousands of people, have without our consent uh, embarked on a reproductive program where they've genetically altered the human genome to create a new species. I call it a transgenic human species that has different DNA, whether it's alien DNA or just human DNA that's genetically modified in some way. I don't know. Again, all without our consent. So I'm optimistic, but I'm skeptical that the the uh, the aliens that have abducted human beings are entirely benevolent. I think we should be prepared for um, dealing with them, and if for some reason they become hostile, and to do that involves disclosure, bringing more scientists into the um, to the study of the phenomenon, so that we can uh, become as technologically competent as we need to be able to defend ourselves if an alien civilization ever becomes hostile.
Have you
And
had
I think by studying the aliens and their technology.
Have you had any contact with anybody at the Defense Department, or has anybody ever tried to talk to you about any of this? I mean, I know reporters who get talked to by the Defense Department. Have you ever been approached, or?
No,
Have
not
you?
yet.
Okay,
I'm
I
not
was
looking forward to it.
no,
But
no,
not yet.
I know,
No.
I know, I know. Oh, now I lost my train of thought. This is what happens when you're my age, man. You don't get old. Don't let it
I'm,
happen.
I am your age.
Oh, you, well, you're wearing it
So
very well.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You look good. You look good. Okay, so what was I
Thanks.
thinking? Now I gotta go back and realize it. So, uh, oh god damn, Jesus Christ, this is awful. Okay, all right, let's just dive into something else. Okay,
Why not?
huh?
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Ask me anything.
God
Ask me
dang,
anything.
I had a really good question. Now I can't remember what it was, and the thing is, it's on the tip of my tongue. All right, okay, so you, um, w- w- oh man, this is embarrassing. Okay,
It's a big book.
it is a big book. And first
Yeah.
of all, I applaud you. You're delving into so much science. Now, this is a backhanded compliment, but it's still a compliment. The scientific part of your book, I think, for the average person, is relatively dense. But that said, you made really complex uh, concepts relatively simple, or as simple as could
Thank
be
you.
made. And yes,
Thank you.
that you get kudos from me for that. You do. That was like, but you're talking. You talked about how these spacecrafts could possibly fly, but and what's the name of the Mexican physicist Abercrombie? I never remember his name. I can't pronounce it. You know,
Alcubierre. Miguel
Alcubierre.
Alcubierre.
Yeah, right. About how his concept about the warp drive, and I've talked about that before on the show.
Right.
Uh, uh, and so we already know at least theoretically enough about how this stuff works, so that we know it's possible. I mean, we can't do it yet, but what do you, if you're all right, here's my thing. If let's say you're from Zeta Reticuli, right? You're 37 light years away, okay? And so you're flying around the galaxy. At this point, if you have enough energy to do that, you probably have all your physical needs taken care of, right?
Right.
Right.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah, I would think it would take a lot of energy to be able to design and build a warp gravity drive to bend space and time so you could travel trillions of miles instantly.
Oh, I've read yes. Apparently, it's a shitload of energy. It's unbelievable. I mean, I read that a small spacecraft would take more electricity than is generated on the entire Earth. You know.
Or there's something we don't understand about quantum mechanics that allows um, systems of particles in one part of the universe to entangle with another system of particles in a part of the universe that's very distant, causing space-time to compress between those two points in the universe with an expenditure of maybe a lot less energy than we might expect. Again, I'm not a physicist, but I am, I would be daunted by the challenge of having to come up with a propulsion system that can generate that much energy
Yes, I
to
know.
travel from one point to it in space, trillion miles away, literally instantaneously.
Yeah,
I can't. I don't even know if there's enough energy in the universe to do that. I can't.
but
I can't do the equations to show you that there is.
You do kind of buy my concept that if you have access to that much energy, you probably have no physical problems in your society. I mean,
Likely, you have access to what they call the energy in the vacuum of space, the 0 point energy
yes,
that
yeah,
many scientists say might be limitless and might be able to take care of all of our energy needs for every country on the planet forever if it
you're
were
right.
possible to access that.
So the reason I brought this up is because if that's the case, people say to me, people ask me is like, why would why would they bother to come here? Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but at that point, your whole society basically doesn't have a lot to do with explore. I mean, you've already solved all your problems. You might as well just go out and you might as well go out and genetically manipulate a bunch of dogs and cats on another planet.
Well, we don't really know what the nature of human beings. Maybe they're interested in us for some reason, but
Yeah.
to really understand our nature, our physical nature, our metaphysical nature, the soul. There may be something that we have that's different and maybe lacking in an alien species, and we don't know what that is. But there's something attractive to us about us.
You're a biologist, and answer a
Yes.
question for me. Um, it, when it comes to DNA, can you literally run out of combinations? I mean, so like a friend of mine said, talking to me about this, he says, well, why do they need to probe? Why do we need they need 5 million anal probes? And my first thing is, well, you need DNA from different people. But if your technology is that advanced, couldn't you just manufacture DNA? I mean, why would you actually need it like quote unquote fresh?
Well, I think it's if you're trying to create a transgenic human species, well, you need genetic diversity. And then the most convenient way, the Occam's razor explanation for the simplest way to do that is through obtaining genetic material from a man and a woman and doing in vitro fertilization and modifying the genome. But at least you would be creating a population that is genealogically diverse, because you would want them to blend in, the theory is, with the rest of us who are normal Homo sapiens.
Uh-huh.
And if you started preparing, you could prepare thousands of clones, but I think we would catch on if we tried to integrate, a number of clones into the human population.
Right now, and so let me ask you: have you heard this theory before? That supposedly Bob Lazar and other people have talked about the fact that one of the reasons they're so interested in us is because supposedly, this is what's been said, that the unusual thing about humans is that we have souls. Have you heard this?
Yes. I mean, as a Roman Catholic, this is kind of a
I know.
touchy area. I don't really like to contemplate it because of my religious background. But Bob Lazar is one of many people that have discussed this. And Whitley Strieber is another good example.
Yeah.
He's written a number of books that have touched on this particular theory, and as he's a proponent of that theory. I think his latest book is called The New World, where he talks about this. And it's not really, it's one of the least palatable theories I've heard about how the purpose of the program is for the alien race to recycle lost souls, or souls that have gone on after death, and to recycle them in some way into human alien hybrids or other species that they create. It's not something I've thought a lot about. Certainly didn't touch on it at all in the book.
I read about a year ago that some British researchers said that they've determined that the the electrical patterns in the human brain can exist outside of the brain. Have you read this or heard about this?
That would mean that consciousness survives after death, and I don't know. I haven't thought of good experiment I could design to test that theory.
Yeah, I don't know how they did it either.
I have thought about how to design such an experiment. I haven't come up with a good one yet.
Oh, well, when you do, you have to come back on the show.
Maybe I have to put someone in cryogenic, freezer and see if there's any consciousness that can be detected at that point when they're at absolute zero. But you raised a lot of interesting questions, Jim.
Well, the thing is, some of this
That,
stuff is
even my book could not touch on.
well, yeah, you can't touch on everything too. I mean,
Right.
but some I do wonder if some of the stuff's interrelated. I'm reading a book by a guy named Michael Newton. He was a psychiatrist who said he interviewed hundreds of people who talked about their near-death experiences.
Indeed, yeah, yes.
Yeah, and the book is specifically about what people call the intermission, the space between lives. And so, and he says, like a lot of people do about the alien abduction experience, that these things are amazingly consistent. Basically, everybody has the same story. They don't know how to
Mhm.
explain it in the same words, but it's pretty obvious that people experience the same thing. So, I don't know. And then you just wonder if it's wishful thinking. Humans don't want to die. I don't know. And then the other question is, and this is really weird. If humans have souls, why don't the gray aliens? Why don't they? What would be unique about us?
Well, we don't know if they do or don't. I commented in the book about how sad they seem without a reproductive
Oh yeah,
system, without a digestive system,
that's
and
right.
with no. I'm not even sure if they can hear music. So not able, I would imagine, to be able to enjoy any culture at all. Just working. I mean, when I looked at them at the age of 6, lying on that table, I thought, these beings never go on vacation. They look like they're working all the time. So, God, I almost hope they don't have a soul.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether they do or not.
Have you read that people have seen on crafts have seen these little gray aliens apparently literally shut down, where they just they turn off? Have you ever heard about that? Or
Of all the cases I've read about, very few, maybe one or two,
uh
have reported that. So I think they're biological organisms, cybernetically controlled, but I have no idea what their inner life is. Whether they
yeah.
have a sense of humor or I, it's not something I've speculated about a lot.
Oh, Bruce. So Bruce, let's end with a worst case scenario. If
Okay.
this is a society that's come here to try to breed us to control us, how do we defend against that? Do you have any ideas?
Well, I think we need an organization, maybe at the level of NASA, that has maybe independent of the military. I'm not sure. Maybe it might have some affiliation with the military, because certain military applications may emerge from technologies that have developed. But we need to have an organization with the funding that can attract the top scientists in a whole range of disciplines to not only study the technology of the UFOs and reverse engineer the propulsion system, navigation system, and so forth, but to study the nature of the alien beings themselves. We have some information from that came out of the Roswell aliens, and don't know if we can learn anything about the transgenics that may be walking among us, and maybe have their genome sequence. But I would hope that we'd be able to, at some point, have disclosure so we can adequately study this phenomenon and learn a lot that we might need to learn in order to be able to, for example, if there are implants or energies that are utilized by the implants to control us, how to defend against that. What's the nature of the energy? Is it an electromagnetic field? And in which case, there are certain materials that can be used to interfere or disrupt electromagnetic fields, as an example. But these are, we need to learn the technology before we can defend against it.
You tell me if I'm right about this, but from what I understand, the Strategic Defense Initiative (SDI) that was started during the Reagan administration, and was this in your book? Forgive me, I read so much I can't remember, about the fact that in reality they did that partly to defend against outer world threats. Have you ever read about any of that, or?
I've heard that. I've read about that in one or two books about UFOs. Philip Corso mentioned it in The Day After Roswell. Then he claims that SDI had some successes, and they were able to actually use the technology that was developed by SDI to shoot down alien UFOs.
Yeah. Now, and
I
also,
don't know if I buy that, but that's what he said.
well, that's interesting. He's a very contentious figure. I mean, there's a lot of
Yes.
people who don't believe him at all. But my thing is, I don't understand what would his modus or what his impetus would be to lie. That's what he was a dying man. He knew it, and you don't make enough money from those books to feed your family, really. Well, maybe you do. I mean, I don't think he did it for money. So I don't understand why he'd make it up. Especially the guy had a sterling military career. I mean, he basically blew it by writing this book.
Yes. And I just can't believe that near the end of his life, he would tell such a big lie. Someone who served this country, was distinguished military career,
Yes.
would then lie to the American people several months before he passed away. I don't know why he would do that.
I'm totally with you. I don't either. I don't. This has been really fascinating, Bruce. Here's the deal.
Yes.
I want you to come back just to talk about science and stuff. Okay? I mean,
Love to.
do you have another book in the works?
Well, people have told me, although I had reasons for reporting all my consciously recalled abduction events, I've never thought about regressive hypnosis. If I think there's a value in my case for things that happened to me 40, 50 years ago, that may yield another book. I'm also interested in the AI question, but I don't know what I can come up with.
And
to
I'm
contribute.
interested in your opinions on that too, because you're kind of on the front lines of that whole thing. Here's my last question: have you found more acceptance lately for your story? I mean, years ago, and you said this in your book, for years you didn't talk about this because you thought people would think you're nuts. But lately, it seems people are been more accepting of this stuff. Have you found that, or is that not true?
In a number of cases, people who were non-believers told me after reading my book, their mind is now open. So that's good. At least I'm
That
having
is
an
good.
impact.
I agree.
If
Yeah.
someone's willing to sit down and read the book,
Right.
I'm able to be, to some degree, persuasive,
Yeah.
at least to have them keep an open mind.
That's right. Matter of fact, I would say if you even have a few people have done that, you're succeeded at something. I mean, it's really humans. We're amazing. We have these belief systems, and we don't want to get off of it. It's like, I don't know. I have friends who watch the show, and I have people like you on regularly, and I have friends that don't buy any of this, none of it. They think they just assume you're making this up for money or you're crazy or something. And but they still watch. I gotta say, they still watch it. I don't know. I don't know what to make of
Well,
it.
I read a lot about it. I wouldn't have believed it if it hadn't happened as much as I do, if it hadn't happened to me myself, exactly the way it happened to them,
Yeah.
the other abductees. Then, I have to really, really suspend my disbelief, and I've concluded that it did happen to me because, as I say, I could check every box in all the boxes for the core alien abduction scenario. So that's the best model I have for explaining what happened to me.
I had a guy on last week named Les Velez. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he runs a support
Yes.
group. Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing is, I ran this idea by him, and I was kind of surprised he agreed with me. And that is, I have the strange feeling that abduction experiences happen primarily to people who are non-believers. It's like, you don't believe this? Here you go.
I've heard anybody say that. Yeah.
Yeah. But he said he thought of that too. So I thought that was interesting. It's like, we're going to show you. You're nuts.
I'm laughing because I hadn't heard that before. That's
okay.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah. Okay.
I know.
Maybe.
Bruce,
Maybe.
I hope you come on again. Really, we talk. I can talk to you about the AI stuff for half an hour. So that's good.
Anytime you want.
Great.
I really enjoyed the conversation. It was nice to meet you, and I missed your 100th episode only by one.
Yes, you made 101. That's right.
Yeah, 101,
I
101.
appreciate that too. So anyway, you take care. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
Thanks so much, Jim. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. All right,
Thank you.
take
You
care.
take care. That's Bruce Rapuano, neuroscientist and biologist. I had him originally. I billed him when we were first put up the schedule as a physicist, and he corrected me. And yeah. But the thing is, if you read his book, there's a lot of physics in there. So like I said, the book is in two parts. We're gonna put a link up to Amazon on our blog. Uh, it's in basically two parts. It's about his experiences, and then the scientific rationale of how he thinks what he saw worked as a scientist. So now he's not a quantum physicist, but a lot of the quantum physics and quantum mechanics explains a lot of what, or at least he thinks it does, a lot of what makes these things fly. And so, like we were talking, the problem, like I said, we've only had freaking iPhones for 20 years. I mean, for all practical purposes, we've only had computers for 40 years. So you extrapolate that out 10,000 years. It's like, what do we got then? Well, then we can walk through walls. And you're saying, well, we can't do that. Well, here's the deal. You ever stop and think about this? You can see through glass. Now, this is something we all have glass windows. Everybody sees glass every day, and you can see through glass, and glass is solid. Well, if you can see through glass, how come you can't walk through it? You know? Well, you can't. Right now you're gonna shatter a window. But I mean, it's an extrapolation of basically a simple technology. That's the way I look at it. And like I said, we were talking about the fact that Arthur C. Clarke, the famous science fiction writer, he said all misunderstood technologies is basically magic. And he's right. Totally right. Anyway, thanks to Bruce for a fantastic conversation. That's terrific. So now it's the C block here, and a lot of times I have UFO news, but because we talked to Bruce about that, we're not going to do that tonight. But we are going what we are going to do is the fact that the Biden now this sounds like politics, but it isn't. The Biden administration wants to relocate 200 grizzly bears to Washington State to increase the public social tolerance of them. Uh, what? I'm intolerant of grizzly bears. I didn't know that. And this goes along with the story we did last week about the fact that some scientist somewhere has come to the conclusion that Bigfoot is a cross, you were talking with Bruce about genetically modified humans, is a genetic cross between extraterrestrials and humans and grizzly bears. Yeah, well, and then you actually stop and think about it, that makes sense. That actually does, because, we've had, Stan Gordon on this show and Mark Marcel, and all these Bigfoot hunters, Larry Newman, although Larry doesn't buy this stuff, but, and Stan has said over and over again, people report, and I've heard this too, that they see Bigfoot disappear right before their eyes, and people have also said they've seen Bigfoot walk out of UFOs, well, flying saucers. Well, okay, well, why would they? Well, they're certainly, I mean, they're not driving any freaking flying saucers. They want to leave if they were. They're not gray aliens, but okay. So if you're going to make a being that's 10 feet tall and 800 pounds and have it live on Earth, yeah, you'd probably cross a human with an extraterrestrial and a grizzly bear. That's probably what you do. Yeah, okay. Just an idea. All right, so here's another idea. This was in the New York Post. Jennifer Lopez people are giving you shit because there's this new documentary that's come out where she talks about her standard bodega order. So she's from New York City. Hold on, excuse me. And she's been getting crap about that because she said for years her bodega. Now, if you're not from New York, a bodega is a small grocery store and deli combination that's usually run by a Hispanic person, right? And she's Hispanic. Okay. So fine. So she said her standard order was ham and cheese on a roll, a bag of chips, and an orange drink. And she said, she said, if I have to tell you what the orange drink is, then you shouldn't know, or something like that. Now, the thing is, I'm a stupid fucker sitting in Minneapolis, where the coldest place on earth. Oh, and by the way, I didn't even bother to use, sometimes I start these shows with a weather report. I'll tell you, the weather here the last 2 days, it just sucked eggs. It's awful. Now we've had the warmest, I'm getting off track. I don't care. We've had the warmest winter in history here. That we basically did not have winter. We didn't have it. It snowed on Halloween, and then it snowed around March 1st, right? And literally only about 5 inches. It was all gone in like 3 or 4 days. It's been so warm here, it's ridiculous. We haven't had a winter until Sunday. No, and of course now this is Sunday's March 24th, and we're technically it's spring. So we went the entire winter with basically having no winter at all. It's never happened here ever. The closest I do remember 1986 was we had a pretty mild winter then. I remember that distinctly. The Challenger exploded Challenger shuttle, and I remember I was driving across the prairie. There was no snow. I still remember that. That's January, February of '86. But so we had no snow all winter, and now here, 4 days into spring, it's been snowing and or raining, and of course that's worse because right now when we just before airtime, I checked the temperature is 21 degrees, which means it's below freezing, which means that all this slop is freezing, and it's not going to get above freezing tomorrow. It's going to stay frozen, and it's just unbelievable. I actually did drive to Jimmy John's just to get my car out for no other reason and get a sandwich. But and the roads are terrible. Anyway, why did I bring that up? Because yeah, I'm a guy here in Minnesota. I'm in the frozen frickin' north. I'm a white dude. I'm not the least bit Hispanic. I'm half Albanian and half Romanian. No frickin' lie. And so, and she says, well, if you don't know what the orange drink is, I'm not going to tell you. I know what the orange drink is. It's Fanta. No, I mean, I don't understand this. It's like, half of the world is on the frickin' Twitter, and nobody knows this. That Fanta is the orange drink of choice. That and what is it called, Margarito, the Mexican soda. But if you're talking about American soda, it's Fanta. It's like it's everywhere in Latin America. It's everywhere in the Hispanic world. People drink Fanta. That's what they drink. And so I don't know why. I don't know. I'm reading this. I'm thinking, why do I know this and nobody else does? This is like crazy. Anyway, yeah. So that's her order, and people give her shit about it because she said, "Well, you just order just ham and cheese." Well, maybe she does. I don't know. She's a simple. She's a purist. I don't know. And then finally, a bunch of German scientists have determined that teenagers do actually smell like cheese, sweat, and goat. And of course, we need the German scientists to tell us that. They couldn't get rid of Hitler, but yeah, they can tell us that. Now I'm fascinated with World War II, but mostly because if you wrote World War II as a novel, people would say it would be implausible. I mean, it's really amazing that even happened. And another thing, I was just telling some friends had lunch with the other day, and I'm fascinated by Nazi architecture. And there's only really one Nazi building left in all of Germany. They've destroyed all of them, and that's the Nuremberg rally grounds. Now, if you've ever seen those pictures where they had those giant rallies with just hundreds of thousands of people, that was at the Nuremberg rally grounds. And the podium where Hitler stood to give those speeches, and the building that was behind him is still there. And it's that building, even the interior is still there, and it's apparently really, really cool. But all the other the Reichstag, all the other buildings of Nazi Germany have been destroyed. The bunker, the Fuhrer bunker, is literally underneath a parking lot at an apartment building. And they have finally now Germany. There's so many people that go to that parking lot. They put up a sign. a large a billboard that explains what's going on and where it is and all that sort of stuff. And now they didn't destroy it; they just filled it in and covered it over. They're actually thinking about uncovering it up. There's so many people come to the stupid parking lot of this apartment building to see this. They're actually thinking, well, maybe we should, you know, acquiesce. Now, the reason they destroyed this stuff is they did not want Nazism raising its ugly head again. They thought it would be that if you kept these things, they might be enshrined or something like that. And maybe that was true for a while, but now there's just historical curiosity. I don't know. So anyway, the Germans have done that, and finally, I this is out of Dear Abby, which is still being published. I didn't know. Dear Abby, my boyfriend wants to marry me, but I think he's ugly. Well, okay, I don't know what to tell you. You know, if he's too ugly for you, get your ass out of there. Like, I don't know. Us humans, man. We're freaking interesting, aren't we? So yeah, I was talking to Bruce. It's like so. What is the interest of these aliens in humans? And I hate to say this, and like I said, I have a bunch of friends who don't know about any of this, but so many people have reported this, and even Bruce even alludes to this in his book about the fact that um, so many of these stories are the same, and they're and uh his recollections happened before even Close Encounters of the Third Kind and all that other, even before the little gray alien archetype was even raised its ugly head. You got people now. On April 22nd, we're going to have Kathleen Marden on the show, and she is the niece of Betty Hill, of Betty and Barney Hill, which is basically the very first documented abduction in 1961. Now, you could say they lied too, but there's a lot of corroborated, there's even physical evidence of this abduction. And the other thing is the Hills as a couple did not want this getting out. It was actually leaked to the press by the secretary of their psychologist. They were just looking for help because they're having a hard time dealing with it. And so this is very, very well documented. And Kathleen went on to become a UFO researcher and an author. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to talking to her. We have a lot of really cool guests on the show, and God bless him. I want to thank Dr. Bruce Rapuano for coming on here. Oh, by the way, I can't forget this. We have a sponsor. You can't forget this at all. This is Conk News. This is at conk.com, CONK.com. Conk News is a news aggregator. That is, they take news from 75 different news sources and every 3 hours, and their servers compile them and lay them out on the front page of their website. And you can see there, they have a little menu, but this is basically a one-page website at conk.com, CONK.com. Now, these are all articles from their news sources. The photos are from the articles themselves. The headlines are not rewritten, and if you click through, you go directly to the article. There's no interstitial page, no advertisement, nothing. You go directly there, and this is entirely free. And if you're a news junkie like me, you can't do any better than this. I mean, I use this constantly to prepare for the show. I mean, you can spend 2-3 hours just reading the stuff on this front page. It's free. It's amazing. It's entirely free. They run some ads. You'll see ads on there, but there's no charge to you, and you don't have to sign up to look at it or any of that sort of stuff. You can just go there, conk.com, CONK.com. Check this out. If you like news, you'll love this. I can't stress this enough. You will. That's our show tonight. So we're taking tomorrow off. That's Wednesday. Thursday, Jazz Shaw from hotair.com is coming on. He's the weekend editor. He's also the UFO guy for Salem Media, for the Salem Media properties. And completely, what's the word I'm looking for? It's really embarrassing. I mean, I think that with Bruce, what we spent 30 seconds where I'm just trying to think and can't. It's like, what a bunch of crap. I'm sorry about that. You know, please keep watching. I'm begging you. Anyway, yeah, Jazz is coming out on Thursday, and he's totally tied into the UFO Defense Department people, and we'll find out, get the latest scoop on what the government does and doesn't want us to know. Mostly doesn't. So now Bruce and I didn't talk about that much, but I mean he alluded to that too. I mean the cover up of UFOs in the United States, it's gotten so blatantly ridiculous that now kind of almost nobody buys it anymore. It's like, but then you have to understand, and the military might have a good, part of the reason is they don't want to tip their hand to our adversaries. And I'm not talking about the out of space adversaries. I'm talking about like Russia, China, and Iran. So they have their reasons. That's the thing. I'm never going to give them a shit about this. Well, oh no, I am. What am I talking about? I am going to give them shit about it. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. I really appreciate it. So yeah, we're taking tomorrow off. We'll be back on Thursday with Jazz Shaw. I'm Jim Peters. Good night, Esperanza. Good night, Uncle Donnie, and good night to you wherever you are. We'll see you on Thursday night.